Hey guys, it's Got Bars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 204th episode of my series where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. Immortal Technique is one of those rappers that the majority of hip-hop fans are most likely aware of, but I think he's one of those cases where sometimes the reputation of his most famous song ends up outshining and overshadowing all of his other accomplishments and talents as a true MC and revolutionary artist. I want to delve a little deeper into Immortal Technique's biggest single, the infamously fucked up Dance with the Devil, because while I assume most people watching the channel have already heard that song, the entire point of this channel is to attempt to tackle every video in a way that can still be palatable to someone who's newer to the genre. Also, that song is on the album we're discussing today, Revolutionary Volume 1, so it isn't really taking away from the subject at hand. But for the purpose of this video, all you really need to know about Dance with the Devil is how it's an incredibly dark and vivid story track about a kid who's growing up in the ghetto, who slowly has his mind poisoned and corrupted as he grows up by surrounding influences and circumstances, culminating in him accidentally committing a crime so heinous that he himself can't even live with it. And I don't mean metaphorically, I mean he takes his life at the end of the song, pretty much right after realizing what he's done. If you're anywhere around my age, you probably had a very similar experience with this song to myself, where you had it introduced by some older peer as the most messed up song ever. Honestly, for all I know, maybe kids are still having that happen to this day. And there may be some pretty bleak and morbid tracks that I've discovered since this one that approach dark, conceptual hip-hop in a slightly different way, like Last Good Sleep by LP and Company Flow, or The Return to Innocence Lost by The Roots and Ursula Rucker. But there's something about the absolutely sinister instrumental to Dance with the Devil that has kept it sounding fresh and relevant nearly 25 years later. The classic beat, mixed with Immortal Technique's masterful storytelling, creates this captivating feeling that clearly resonated with millions of listeners across the world, because it's not too easy to have a song with this kind of subject matter reach the massive level of success that this single ended up achieving. The thing that's really always brought this song home for me and tied it together perfectly is the 10 out of 10 hook that Technique lays down, because I think it really shows how you can write a chorus that's memorable and gets stuck in your head without compromising your sound, style, or message even in the slightest. The hook I'm referencing comes in the form of everyone trying to be trife never faced the consequences. You probably only did a month for minor offenses. Ask a person doing life if he had another chance, but then again, there's always the wicked that knew in advance. Dance forever with the devil on a cold cell block, but that's what happens when you rape, murder, and sell rock. Devils used to be God's angels that fell from the top. There's no diversity because we're burning in the melting pot. Well, like I said, that's obviously the most famous and well-known moment of Revolutionary Volume 1, and maybe even Immortal Technique's career in general. It's nowhere near the only impactful and forward-thinking attribute to this LP. There's the controversial Skip Beef and Broccoli, where Immortal goes in on rappers preaching their vegan beliefs, which I kind of used to assume was about Dead Prez, considering the messages they were spreading around at that time. But considering that both artists have collaborated on multiple occasions since then, I'm pretty sure that's not the case. Either way, I've seen some people say that it's hypocritical that Immortal Technique talks a big game about human oppression and being conscious, then turns a blind eye to animal slavery and the sisters of oppression perpetrated by the meat and dairy industries. Personally, I'm not vegan, nor do I have any idea if Immortal Technique still holds those views to this day. But while I agree with certain sentiments he puts across in this track, I definitely see how certain vegan hip-hop fans could have an issue with it. But that's really scraping the bottom of the barrel, because everything else here is pretty much as revolutionary as rap music can get, hence the name for this series of albums. From human biology or racial issues to government hypocrisy and ancient history, There really isn't a topic under the sun that this dude doesn't have some controversial and often confrontational take on. For example, the opening song that starts this project off is a concept track where Immortal Technique plays with themes like life and creation and compares them with death and destruction, and uses the contrast of the two to build one of the best talk your shit intros that I can think of. I have to read some of his first verse on here, considering it's one of my favorites on the entire project. And he kicks it off with Immortal Technique disintegrates mics when I spit. I cause more casualties than sunken slave ships, full to capacity. I bring tragedy to rap without my man Gaddafi. The government took Nazi scientists from Germany to design nuclear rockets and ways of observing me, because their pathetic attempts didn't work to murder me. When this country was conceived, these bastards never heard of me, but now I hold the souls of slave masters eternally, bleeding internally, burning D during surgery verbally, cause I'm a spiritual witch. Devils are incompatible. I've been around since this planet was inhabitable. I spit in the ocean and created microscopic animals, which evolved into two species, the righteous and the cannibals. But until then, I had alien women suck me off. When God said, let there be light, I turned it the fuck off. And that's the reason Earth is only 5 billion years old. There's also a small chunk of featured artists on here, a couple of which happen to be Team Hami members or affiliates, who really got a boost through their involvement with Immortal Technique. These include dudes like Poison Pen and the late legend Pumpkinhead or PH. And the other guest appearances come in the form of Diabolic, Big Zoo, and Jean Grey. Meanwhile, when it comes to the killer set of instrumentals on here, those were provided by names like 44 Caliber, Akir, Jean Grey, Marley Marl, Rhetoric, Southpaw, and Immortal himself. If I had to choose my 3 favorite tracks overall for this thing, they would probably consist of Creation and Destruction, Dance with the Devil, and The Illest. For honorable mentions, I think I'll go with songs like Dominant Species, Positive Balance, The Getaway, Top of the Food Chain, The Poverty of Philosophy, Revolutionary, No Me Importa, The Prophecy, No Mercy, and Speak Your Mind. Thank you for watching my 204th video. Next up, we have one of, if not the single most avant-garde hip-hop acts I've covered on the page. So look out for that one, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite songs off this awesome debut LP are. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.
Look, the key to my soul is locked in the cage it opens. The framework was made from my own rib cue. What came first, the crack or the crack light, or whichever one the first fiend used to bring back